excited to have you here today with us as we have yet another Cyber conversation. Just so everybody knows, Cyber is a program out of Dakota State University in Madison, South Dakota. And we were founded by Drs. Pam Rowland and Dr. Ashley Podorotsky in 2013. And our mission is to motivate, empower, and educate girls in cybersecurity, but our programs are open to anyone. So we want to welcome you and just thank you for those of you who've been on here before and seen some of our programs. Thank you for coming back. And for those of you who may be new, we hope you'll continue to come to these types of programs while it's a little awkward in this virtual world we're in. I do want to remind you that if you have any questions during today's program, you can submit them via the Q&A that you will find at the bottom of the screen. And Kanti Narukonda will be facilitating our Q&A that we have later on in the portion. So I want to welcome here, we have Jothi Dugar, who is a cybersecurity guru. She has so many titles. She is a multidimensional executive, an entrepreneur, a dance director, a chief information security officer, holistic health and wellness practitioner, an author, and an international speaker. Not to mention, she is also happily married mom of 3. And so we are thrilled to have her on here. She is a trailblazer in the field of cybersecurity and one of just a handful of leading female CISOs, that Chief Information Security Officers, in the world. She truly is a shining example of the fact that cybersecurity doesn't mean that you have to always be sitting in front of a computer or only wear one hat. So we are thrilled to have her here. And Jothi, I am going to hand it off to you so you can tell everybody about what you do and how you got there.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was a beautiful introduction. I'm so honored and privileged to be here with all of you today. And yes, like Katie said, you know, when I was growing up, I was, you know, kind of contemplating what I wanted to do in life. And I actually wanted to be a doctor at first. So, you know, I took all the biology and chemistry and every possible class there was in order to be a doctor. I got into the, you know, top programs where I, you know, could have just sailed through and not gone through all these years. I had so many courses and AP credits and everything you can imagine. And what really changed my world was actually I joined my first year. I went to Penn State University. I love that. That's still dear to my heart. But what happened was my first year in college, I was sitting in a classroom. I still remember this day, and a doctor came in, and he was kind of going through his typical lifestyle, everything that he had to go through to become a cardiac surgeon. And that's what I actually was passionate about, is to be a pediatric cardiac surgeon. And he was like, okay, you got to spend all of these years in school, then you got to do residency, then you got to do this and this and this and this and that, and then you end up with you know, this much debt, and you're basically on call 24/7. So if you want to have a family, and if you are a woman or a young female at the time, you know, you really have to kind of decide for yourself what kind of lifestyle do you want. And something about what he said just really hit me hard. And he went around asking each and every student, like, why do you want to be a doctor? And if it's more than being a general physician, why do you want to be that? And really my cause was I just wanted to help people. And even from a young age, I wanted to inspire people as well. So he basically looked at me and said, well, if that's your reason, then there are plenty of other things you can do to help others, to help kids even. So you really, you know, just kind of sleep on it and think about, is this really the only way you can think of helping? And I think that's all I needed. So I decided, okay, you know what, there are other ways that I can help people, and there are other ways I can help kids as well. And especially girls. I was really passionate about helping girls, even from when I was a girl myself, just because I've gotten myself through lots of different traumas in my life as well. So, and being a girl, being an only child and going through traumas, I was able to help my friends as well. So what I decided to do was like, okay, you know what, I'm really, I really like hands-on things and problem solving. So what's a major I can get into besides the medical field? So I decided to try electrical engineering, and that's actually what I ended up graduating with. So I did graduate with electrical engineering. It was a very, definitely was not easy by any means. I was the only female. This was about 25 years ago. I was the only female in my engineering class. It was filled with males. And unfortunately, times have not changed a whole lot. You still see more males than females, but I'm really passionate about urging our younger generation to really get into these fields that seem like they're different. And maybe it may seem like it's too hard, but what engineering taught me was just that ability to problem solve, which you can use in any field that you might decide to go into. So I started with electrical engineering, but my first job was not engineering at all. It was actually a consulting position that I took with Ernst & Young. So I got to travel the world. I got to meet, just experience different cultures. And what I really combined with my engineering was English and communications. And also, since I was a dancer since I was 3 years old, and you would think like, well, what does that really have to do with anything? It actually, you'll be surprised. So there's 3 things that I really feel like really has helped me in my life. It's the ability to think creatively. And in order for you to think creatively, you have to use the creative side of your mind, which is your right side of your brain. So if you think about it, and oftentimes people tell me like, well, what does the artists and the creative people have to do with the technology, and the technology people? They actually, you need both sides, especially in cybersecurity. So long story short, I went from engineering, I did consulting for several years. I worked for Department of Defense and the intel agencies for several years as well. And then I came to NIH, National Institutes of Health, which is where I work now. And it was such a drastic difference, just in the type of audience that you have to interact with. If you go into Department of Defense or DoD or military, those kinds of fields, it's very, there's hierarchical. You do what you're asked to do by your boss. Like there's no, the room for innovation and creativity is a little slimmer. But when you go into a healthcare organization like NIH, it's a very nurturing environment, but it's also, it gave me my ability to just think differently, to innovate, to grow, to create. But here I was doing cybersecurity, and oftentimes when you look at cybersecurity, it seems that it's one thing, right? It's all about just computers or it's about programming, and it's really not. It's such an amazing field because there's so much opportunities, and it's so broad. So you're really able to combine all of you into this one field. So I was able to bring in my creative dance side as well, because you're facing new challenges every day in cybersecurity. It's never going to be a type of situation where you just go, you do the same thing, and then you go back home, and the next day you come back, do the same thing, and you go back home. Because it's such a constantly evolving field that if you're open to change, if you like that a little bit of that chaos or that challenge, this is an amazing field, because there's always going to be a challenge. And the biggest challenge for me was actually to speak the language of the person you're speaking to. So in cyber, you'll notice that if you go to a doctor or clinician and you talk to them about securing their medical instruments or their medical devices, it's just not going to go over well if you use the same language that you would speak to a system administrator or someone that's really technical. So I had to really develop the art of communicating, and the art of telling stories. So one thing that I always make fun of myself on is when I was a kid, I was the only child. So, and I had a pretty traumatic childhood. So I got really good in telling stories because I had to kind of save myself from getting in trouble. And my parents used to always, tell me that, you need to stop telling stories. But this has actually been my number one strength in cybersecurity and actually in public speaking as well, is the ability to tell a story in such a way that it resonates with somebody else. And from the wellness perspective, either they're able to get a breakthrough just from hearing you speak, and from the technology side, the cyber side, by telling the story to a doctor or a researcher or a scientist in a way that resonates with them, they now understand the value of cybersecurity. So they're going to do whatever it takes to secure their medical instruments. But so really, if you think about it, it's all connected, and it's all connected within you. So what I urge girls as well as even young women that are getting into the field, and for teachers out there is to really encourage the younger generation to have all of these different aspects of them. They don't have to necessarily choose just one thing, and even if they choose that one thing, they can still have multiple different aspects of them, and that is what makes them uniquely them. And that's what no one can walk that journey as they can on their own path. I think one other thing that I'm starting to realize as I get older is that everything in life is happening for you, and it's actually preparing you for what's to come in the future. So if I look at my life today, even the tough times, even the times where I didn't know if I was doing the right thing, all of these times, and the times where maybe I didn't get what I wanted, or somebody was being very difficult, or a situation was very hard to go through, it's all happening for a reason. And it's making you stronger as you learn your lessons from those situations. And there's always a gift in every situation. And if we're able to just understand that, even from what seems to be really traumatic or really hard to face right now, there is a gift in that situation. You might not see it in the moment, but even just the thought of knowing that, okay, this is happening for me, it's for a reason, there is a gift, will at least start, will enable you to process it and then to move through it. And then once you get to the other side, you're able to kind of look back and figure out, okay, yeah, this was a gift. And I always like telling my story. I'll make it really short, but after the birth of my third baby, I was in a pretty traumatic situation myself. I was given 6 weeks to live. And I could have just taken that as, why is this happening to me? There's no gift in this. But long story short, I was able to recover and heal myself. It took me a good 2.5 years, but I was able to do it myself. And then I took everything that I learned how to heal for myself, and now I'm helping others heal through my holistic wellness practice as well. So, if you ask me at that point in time, when the doctors had given me 6 weeks to live, I probably wouldn't have said, oh, this is definitely a gift. But just the thought that, okay, if this is a gift, like, what is it? And then it makes you want to find that gift. Okay, why is this happening? Okay, let me figure out how I can get myself through this so that I can look back at my past experiences and understand, okay, this was the gift. That was meant to happen so that I can learn all of these things and integrate it together, formulate my own programs and create my own practice so that I can then give back to others. And everything that I've gone through in my life in cyber and in my career, everything was such a beautiful gift, because now I'm able to come on these types of programs and try to give back and help the younger generation, help the teachers, parents, also realize, there's so many different ways to do things. And in cyber itself, it is relatively a new field, so which is a great thing for the kids that may get into it, because there's no right way or wrong way, which is phenomenal. Not a lot of professions can say that. It's usually, this is the book, this is what the book says, that's what you got to do. In cyber, there's 100 different ways to do things, and everyone's coming into it from totally different fields as well, which really makes it very dynamic and also diverse. So that would be, I think it's just a great time to get into the field. I know a lot of organizations and companies and government, DoD, they're all looking for someone that's well-rounded, someone that can speak the language of the people in that environment, someone that brings in new and creative ideas. Being a manager myself, that's what I look for as well. So it's not, and it's just beautiful to see the younger generation coming into this field and just not really knowing much about it. But once they get in, it's just amazing how fast they pick things up and how fast they grow. And then just the different things that you're able to do in the field too. So once you get the cybersecurity experience, you can actually take it to any other position that you may want to go to if you choose to, just because it gives you this broad experience. It gives you the ability to communicate, the ability to think strategically, to solve problems, to work with a diverse team of people, because not only do you have to build those relationships with your colleagues, but maybe you'll become a manager and you're going to have to build those relationships with the people that work for you and also the people that you work for, because you're kind of like that hub that holds like everything together. So it's very unlike other roles or other positions that you might be thinking of following, because you're not stuck in like one role. It's such a broad, it's just like an open spectrum. You can do whatever you want in the field and go as high as you need to. And you can also pivot from being a CISO to another type of leader, maybe a CIO or director. And having that cyber experience is going to be really crucial. Do I have more time? Or?
Well, we have quite a bit of questions for you.
Okay.
But let me just say that was a fantastic introduction. I mean, you wear so many different hats. You are a CISO, you are an author, you're a dance director. You are so many things. I have a question. This is my own question. Sure. So is there a role among all of these that is like, that you hold very near to you? That's something that's your favorite?
To me, it would be, I'm actually trying to merge the cyber security field with the holistic wellness field. Because the part that I didn't mention is that it's a fun field to be in. It can also be very tiring, just because you have, especially if once you get to a CISO type of position or a cyber leader type of position, you have this calling, like you have to be there when that crisis happens or when a major incident happens, or there's a major disruption. You're like the first person they call to see, oh, have we been breached? Is there a cyber attack? So if you don't take care of your own wellness and you don't put your health and wellness first, I've seen a lot of times where you can let it get to you, and then you start losing sleep, you don't eat well, and it really starts having a big toll on your health. So being in the health and wellness industry and in cyber, my goal, my passion, and my mission now is basically to bring holistic wellness and people transformation to the technology and cyber field.
That's actually awesome, because it's so stressful to be in the cyber field. Like you said, it is so stressful.
It definitely is. And, we oftentimes, women more so than men, just don't value our own self-worth and also our or well-being as much as we really need to. So we put everything else first. We put the job first. We put, when you get ready to have kids, you put our kids first, you put your spouse first. And then that just leaves us completely depleted just from a normal setting. And then if you're in cyber, you have, you know, all the stress and chaos from your work as well. So, you know, I often joke that the difference between a cyber professional and a hacker is your mental health and well-being. Because if you had maintained your mental health and your well-being, then you wouldn't be making, you know, such bad decisions to be a hacker.
I kind of like that. That's funny. So, what would you say has been your biggest challenge throughout life? It could be about work, it could be something else.
Yeah, I think for me, it's building up my own self-confidence in just being authentic and just being me. So growing up, you know, I was always asked, I'm sure all the young girls out there are also being asked, like, who do you want to be when you grow up? Or who do you want to who's your role model? And who do you want to try to be like? And I often never knew how to answer that, because what I'm doing now is what I wanted to be growing up, and no one was doing that. So for me, it's like, well, I don't have a role model per se, and I don't want to be like anyone. But I often found that when you say to someone that, oh, I just want to be the best that I can be, and do things that maybe others haven't done before, they kind of look at you as like, oh, okay, you must not have a big dream then. I'm like, nope, I have a pretty big dream. It's just that no one has accomplished my dream. So it's like if you ask Elon Musk, who's your role model? There's really no one, because no one has done what he's, you know, what he has done now. So I would say for all the girls and even women out there, it's like you don't have to try to be like somebody else, and you don't have to be like your role model if you do have a role model. You could, you know, I think the best thing that anyone can do is just to be the best authentic self that you can be, and also realize, maximize your own potential, and just know that everyone has a pretty high potential that sometimes you don't realize for yourself. So it's really, you know, it's really great when you can find a mentor that sees the potential in you and kind of can bring that out of you. Because sometimes it is hard to see it in yourself, because you might just take yourself for granted, which is what most of us do, right? We're the harshest critic on ourselves. So it helps to have someone, you know, let us to see that in us, and give us that chance. And you just have to go for it. So when you get those opportunities, you know, just say yes and do it anyway, even if you feel a little scared or you feel you know, nervous or anxious. Like, you just once you say yes and go for it, it just opens up a whole new world.
So you said something about being the only girl in your field when you graduated with a degree in electrical engineering. Now, a lot of us can actually relate to that. We may not be the only one anymore, but we're still like pretty small in number when compared to the boys. And so, do you have any advice for girls who feel like they've been cast aside in a classroom?
Sure. Yeah. And you know, I would have hoped that 25 years later, the landscape has changed dramatically, and you know, it's unfortunate that it hasn't, but I'm glad there's amazing programs like this to start changing that dynamic. So again, I think you can just be the best that you can be. Like I didn't worry about the, you know, 99% of boys in the class. I just, you know, I did my homework, I asked the questions. And the funny thing is, I think what I found was a lot of the boys were actually too intimidated to ask questions in the class, because they didn't want to feel like they're, you know, they didn't want people to pick on them, or they didn't want the teacher to think that they didn't really know. It's not a good question. But for me, it's like, hey, you know, I need the answer, so I'm going to ask the question. So they would actually come to me like, hey, can you ask our questions too for us? So little by little, I started building up myself until, I was honestly just not trying to be part of the popular group. Like I just wanted to get through college, do my degree and then get out of there. But somehow by the end of when I graduated, I ended up being, I think like one of the most popular people, not because I was trying to be, but because I was never afraid of just just being myself and then just asking the questions to the teacher. I didn't really care if what anyone thought about the question. Like if I have a question, I'm going to ask it. If I have a thought on something, or maybe if I even disagreed with an opinion or a theory, you got to build up that confidence in yourself to just go for it and then just put it out there. And a lot of times you think it's going to close doors, it'll actually open doors. So it's just the opposite impact. Because when you ask the right questions, or when you actually test things out, even with professors and teachers or with other classmates, it almost opens their ability to think creatively as well, right? So that can really help you in pretty much all aspects of life, even relationships. Because when someone tells you, oh, this is how it is and this is how it's going to be, for you to kind of take that like, okay, I understand that, but maybe there's another way of looking at it, or maybe there's a creative solution for it. So the more you use your creative side, it's going to really help in technical degrees, but it'll also help you in life in general.
Just ask questions. I like it. So you have many roles, right? So how did you transition from one role to the other? Like, how did you change jobs?
So yeah, I think, as I said, I think when you are open minded and you're open to possibilities and opportunities, they'll come to you. So did I think that I wanted to do cybersecurity growing up? Well, no, because it didn't really exist back then. But I was open to whatever opportunities that come to me. And then I was also seeking, challenge. I was seeking to do things that maybe others haven't done. So when you start seeking, the answers will come. So I got into cybersecurity. I was actually working for Department of Defense, doing project management type of work. And my previous boss had actually seen the potential in me, and he had said, okay, why don't you try this cyber, it wasn't called cyber back then, it was called information assurance, but it seemed like a new area or new field that was kind of picking up speed. And he said, hey, you seem like I've seen your work, and you seem someone who's really creative and open-minded, but also technical, and has like problem-solving skills. So, maybe try it out. So I took a couple of certification classes, and, just like the engineering field, when I started doing some research, trying to figure out like, well, who's in this space already? All I saw was again, almost 100% male dominated. And I almost backed out. I'm like, oh, another male dominated field. But, I really liked what I was learning content wise. So I kind of stuck with it. And then now 20 years later, I'm still here. So I think you just have to keep an open mind, be open to opportunities. And when those opportunities come, even if it's a little scary, sometimes just say yes and try it out. And just keep in mind that, the truth is only the truth in the moment. So just because you choose a path, it doesn't mean that you have to stick with that for like the rest of your life. So I know I might be going against parental advice here, or maybe even from an academic standpoint, but really, there's so much you can do in your life, especially if you have to pivot at some point. A lot of us think like, oh, we spent all this time and money and we invested in a certain path, and it's too late to switch to the other path. It's never too late. I've known people that switched paths when they're like 50 years old. They Because what happens is if you choose a path and you're so young, and then you start going along that path, and then at some point in your life you realize like, hey, this isn't really what I want to do. Like, I don't find any passion in this. There's no fulfillment. Then you're going to want to switch paths anyway. So, I would say, really find out like what is it that brings you excitement. So if you had to kind of close your eyes and think about what type of job, and you might not know the exact role yet, it's okay. Just think about if you had to go to work every day, what would actually make you get up and show up and be there 100%? What would you be willing to even do for free if you could? But of course, you have to make a living as well. But what would you actually do for free anyway? So to me, it is about people. It's about ensuring that people are living their life to their maximum potential, but also bringing that transformation and wellness to the corporate workplace, which is where most people are these days, and bringing the transformation to leaders. And that's what makes me get up every day. Like if I had to do the same thing every day and not have any variety or challenge, like it wouldn't make me want to get up. So, I think, when we're asking kids such a young age to make such a dramatic decision in their life, like what do you want to be? It can seem a little, overwhelming. So, I would just say, don't be afraid. You can just choose something. You can try that out, do it for a few years, possibly to get that experience. And then if you feel like, you want to branch off and do something else, that it only adds to your strength. It doesn't weaken your strength. And remember, everything in your life is preparing you for the future. And everything in the past in your life has prepared you for this moment.
That is absolutely wonderful advice. And I think so many things that I know I wrote down and stuff. One of my favorite things that you said in there was just to be your authentic self. And that is just, I think, so true. So thank you so much for that. For all of the participants, I am going to launch our poll. If you can just take a couple seconds to fill out those few questions there. And then I want to remind everyone that all of these are recorded and put onto our CyberHer Learning channel on YouTube. So you can go to YouTube and search for CyberHer. Find us there with all of our previously recorded conversations. This conversation will be posted on Friday, so you can find it there by Friday. And we hope that you will join us again next week when we have Chloe Mastagi joining us, who is a bug bounty a person who works in bug bounties. So you'll want to come find out what that is. And you're also going to want to see, because she is currently working on changing what the definition of a hacker is and what a hacker looks like. So we hope you'll join us next week. You can find that and all of our upcoming CyberHer conversations on our website at www.cyberher.org. And be sure to follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then you can also subscribe to our YouTube Learning channel. So we hope you will see everybody again next week. And we thank you, Jothi, for joining us and sharing so many wonderful words of advice for the future women of cybersecurity. So thank you.